right? How exactly can just one regional conflict shake the entire world? Well, it turns out the answer really starts with geography. It all comes down to one very specific and incredibly important map.
All right, so let's dive right in. To really get a handle on the global stakes here, you first got to understand Iran's sheer size and just how crucial its position is on the world stage. Okay, first up, let's just talk about scale. Iran is, well, it's enormous. I mean, just look at this. We're talking about a landmass that's bigger than France, Germany, and Spain combined. This isn't just some country, it's a massive piece of geopolitical real estate that you simply cannot ignore. And on that vast piece of land live 90 million people. Now, that's a population that gives Iran a huge domestic market, a really deep pool for military recruitment, and at the end of the day, it just gives it immense weight when you're talking about the regional balance of power. Now, think about its location. It's this natural land bridge, right? A historic gateway connecting east and west. And this is absolutely key for what we're talking about today, its long coastline completely dominates the Persian Gulf. And the Persian Gulf, that's one of the world's lifelines for energy. But look, Iran's influence isn't just about where it is on the map. It's also deeply rooted in its history and how that history has created this whole network of really intense rivalries.
So this timeline here shows you the critical turning point, 1979. The Iranian Revolution, it didn't just change Iran. It completely redrew the political map of the entire region. See, by establishing an Islamic republic, it basically put itself on an immediate collision course with its Gulf neighbors, and most importantly, with the United States and its key ally in the region, Israel. And we're not talking about just a political disagreement here. This runs much deeper. It's a core belief for them. From the perspective of Iran's leadership, the US is their #1 enemy, and they completely reject the idea that the state of Israel has a right to exist. This one thing has pretty much defined their entire foreign policy for decades. So, okay, you're facing these really powerful adversaries. How do you project your own power? Well, Iran uses this strategy it calls forward defense, and it does it through something called the axis of resistance. So what is that? Basically, it's a network of really well-armed militias that Iran supports all across the Middle East. It's their way of extending their military reach and their influence way beyond their own borders. And just so we're clear, we are not talking about small-time groups here. These are major players. You've got Hezbollah in Lebanon with its huge arsenal of rockets. You've got Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis down in Yemen who control those key shipping lanes, and, of course, powerful militias in both Iraq and Syria. You can almost think of them as Iran's strategic assets, positioned just like chess pieces all across the region. Okay, so we've got the players, we've got the tension. Now let's get into the hypothetical spark that could light this whole powder keg. So, picture this. This is the spark. A coordinated US-Israeli strike hits targets all across Iran, and in the middle of all that chaos, the supreme leader is killed. Tehran's response is immediate, and it is furious. They call the attack unprovoked, illegal, and illegitimate. And right there, in that moment, diplomacy is over. The war has begun. And a war like this, it's not going to be a simple, two-sided affair. No. It would spread, and it would spread fast and violently across the entire region. Iran's retaliation would be immediate and devastating. They launch attacks on multiple fronts, hitting not just military bases, but the economic hearts of their neighbors. We're talking airports, hotels, critical oil facilities. And at the exact same time, their most powerful ally, Hezbollah, opens up a whole new front against Israel from Lebanon. And then the conflict spills into the sea, with naval clashes breaking out as far away as the Indian Ocean. So this massive military escalation, it has an immediate and devastating partner, economic warfare. And this, right here, is where the entire world starts to feel the pain. To really understand why, we need to talk about something called a choke point. Just think of it like a critical artery for the global economy, a super narrow passage that a huge amount of world trade absolutely depends on. And if you squeeze that artery, well, the whole system feels it. And guess what? The world's most critical choke point lies right on Iran's doorstep. It's the Strait of Hormuz. And it is really, really hard to overstate how important this is. A staggering 20%, that's 1/5 of the entire world's oil supply has to pass through this tiny strip of water. So for Iran, this geographic reality is, as one source put it, a very important trump card. And it really is. They have the power to disrupt or even completely shut down 1/5 of the world's oil flow. You know, on any normal day, this strait is just a pulsing artery of global commerce. I mean, it's a constant parade of tankers and cargo ships moving 24/7. It's basically the steady heartbeat of the world economy. But in our war scenario, that artery is completely severed. Suddenly, shipping companies are terrified of attacks, so they just stop their vessels. The flow of oil slows to a trickle. And the result? Global energy prices go through the roof, and that economic shockwave hits everyone, everywhere. We're talking from the gas pump in Ohio all the way to the grocery store in Japan. So, what happens when the fighting finally stops? Well, the damage, both physical and political, it creates a brand new and maybe even more dangerous reality. Look, a ceasefire isn't going to just fix everything. That deep-seated mistrust, it's still there. It leaves the region even more fractured, more isolated than before. It's like one source said, even if the conflict ends tomorrow, it's not going to end the tensions that come with it. There's a long road ahead. And all of this, really, brings us to the central idea of this whole explainer. In a world that's so tightly bound together by supply chains, by data, by alliances, this one hypothetical conflict forces us to ask a really fundamental question. In a system that's this interconnected, is any major conflict